Listen closely, chosen one, because what I'm about to reveal is something your spirit has always felt, even if your mind couldn't explain it. From the moment you walk into a room, from the moment you enter a place with heavy, stagnant energy, from the moment you cross paths with people who carry shadows they never talk about, something happens. A shift, a disturbance, a ripple in the unseen. It's subtle on the outside, but in the spiritual realm, it's thunder, because the moment darkness sees you, it recognizes your spirit. It doesn't wait for your words. It doesn't need your name. It doesn't even look at your face. It reacts to your presence. You've probably noticed this your whole life. People staring at you for no reason. People becoming nervous or fidgety around you. People who avoid you, get intimidated by you, or dislike you instantly. Even when you haven't said a single word. Rooms getting strangely quiet when you walk in. Children or sensitive people watching you with wide eyes, as if they see something you don't. It's not random. It's not just your imagination. Your spirit outshines them, and darkness knows exactly what that means. From the day you were born, heaven placed a mark on you, a calling, a mission, an energy that doesn't blend in, doesn't shrink, and doesn't hide. No matter how much you try to act normal, you carry light, but not just any light, a dangerous light, a disruptive light, a light that was made to challenge darkness, expose deception, and tear apart any spiritual assignment formed against you. This is why certain people instantly dislike you, why some feel threatened before you even speak, why jealous, insecure, or spiritually weak people act strangely around you. They're not reacting to you as a person. They're reacting to your spirit, because demons don't listen to words. They respond to energy, and your energy carries something ancient, divine, and unmistakable authority. You don't even realize how much authority you carry. You don't realize how your presence disrupts spiritual atmospheres. You don't realize how your silence speaks louder than others shouting. But they know, they've always known. This is why you experience so much spiritual warfare, why you attract attacks, jealousy, draining people, manipulators, narcissists, and those who operate in darkness. It's not because you're weak, it's because you are drenched in spiritual authority you haven't even fully stepped into yet. You don't see what they see. You don't hear what they hear, but they feel it instantly. This one is marked. This one is protected. This one is dangerous. And this is where your story begins. Not with what you say, not with what you do, but with who you are in the unseen. The realm where your spirit shines like a blazing fire. A fire that darkness cannot ignore, cannot approach, and cannot silence. Chosen one, you've been trying to understand why people act strangely around you, why some stare too long, why some avoid you, why some suddenly get irritated the moment you walk in, why some can't lie to you, why some feel exposed in your presence, why you feel tension in places you've never even spoken a word. Let me tell you something that will finally make everything make sense. Your spirit introduces you before your voice ever does. And the moment your spirit arrives, the entire atmosphere shifts, physically, emotionally, and spiritually. Let's break down what you've been experiencing all your life. 1. Demons do not see your face. They see your awaken. When spiritual forces look at you, they don't see your outfit, your height, your age. or your expression, they see your rank, your calling, your purpose, your spiritual assignment. And this is why the reaction is always instant. When you walk into a place, demons don't whisper, "Who is this?" They whisper, "Oh no." They're here. Some retreat, some watch from a distance. Some try to stir people against you. Some try to distract you or drain your energy so you don't notice the power you carry. But their reaction isn't because you're weak, it's because you're marked with light, marked with authority, marked with divine protection, marked with a destiny they can't interfere with. Your presence announces all of that before you utter a word. -2. People with heavy energy feel exposed. In front of you, you've seen this. Someone who lies a lot can't look you in the eyes. Someone with jealousy suddenly becomes cold. Someone with impure intentions gets uncomfortable. Someone doing wrong becomes defensive for no reason. Why? Because your spirit reveals what their spirit wants to hide. Your aura is like a spotlight. It exposes darkness. Without you even trying, you don't need to confront them. You don't need to accuse them. You don't need to explain anything. Your presence does the work. You are spiritual truth wrapped in human form. And people who operate in darkness feel naked around you. That's why they avoid you, criticize you, or act strange without any logical reason. It's not personal, it's spiritual. 3. Your silence speaks louder than other people's words. Chosen one. You've probably noticed this. You don't talk much, yet people listen when you do. Don't try to get attention, yet people feel your energy when you walk in. You don't try to impress, yet people become aware of themselves around you. This is because your silence carries authority. Your energy communicates in a way your voice never could. When you sit in a room, people feel the weight of your presence. Some feel inspired, some feel protected, some feel challenged, some feel exposed. Your silence forces them to reflect on themselves. Darkness hates self-reflection, so it tries to escape. You, -4. Angels walk with you, and others sense it. People glance behind you as if someone else walked in with you. Kids stare at you with fascination. Animals approach you calmly. Spiritual people feel warmth around you. Even strangers trust you instantly. It's not just you they're sensing, it's the presence of heaven that surrounds you. Even demons see it, and that's why they react the way they do, not because they fear you, but because they fear what stands beside you, what covers you, what guides you, what fights for you. 5. Your energy forces spirits to reveal their true unatua is why you experience sudden mood changes in other people when you walk in, random hostility from strangers, some people trying too hard to impress you, some trying too hard to challenge you, some getting nervous or clumsy around you, some looking at you with awe. Your spirit doesn't allow people to pretend, it pulls out the truth inside them. The kind ones become kinder. The jealous ones become more obvious. The insecure ones project harder. The fake ones slip up. The spiritually tormented ones get exposed. Darkness cannot hide around a chosen one. Your presence forces it to show its face. And chosen one, this ability is not random. It is assigned. It is intentional. It is divine. Because your spirit was never meant to blend in. It was meant to disrupt, expose, guide, protect, reveal, transform. Chosen one. You've felt it, but you've never had the language to explain it. That strange tension in the air when you enter a room. That sudden silence when you walk past a group. That shift in people's facial expressions. Confusion. Awe, discomfort, admiration. Feral blending at once. You've always wondered, why does the atmosphere change when I arrive? I didn't even say anything. Let me tell you the truth that your spirit already knows. Your presence carries power. Your energy carries truth. Your soul carries light. And the moment you step into any environment, everything in that space reacts to you, consciously or unconsciously. Let me walk you through this slowly, so you finally understand what's been happening around you all your life. 1. Your energy is not normal. It's spiritually KRGA. Most people walk with physical identity, their personality, voice, appearance. But you walk with spiritual identity. You are not showing up. Alone, your energy reaches the room before your feet do. This is why people turn their heads before they even notice you visually. This is why some stare at you like they've seen something they can't explain. This is why some get nervous without speaking to you. Your spirit vibrates at a higher frequency, and low energy environments can feel it immediately. It's like dropping a glowing ember into a dark cave. The darkness reacts instantly best. The light reveals what the dark tried to hide. That's you, the ember heaven placed on earth. You don't try to shine, you simply are light. And everything responds. -2. Demons. Recognize your spiritual signature, instant Elwit chosen one. Every chosen person carries a signature, a spiritual frequency that cannot be copied. Demons can't always read your thoughts, but they can read your calling. They can sense your purity, purpose, your divine assignment, your protection, your spiritual rank, your angelic covering. This is why they tremble before you open your mouth. Your presence exposes what they are trying to hide. Your energy disrupts their plans. Your light interrupts their influence. Your spirit threatens their territory. When you arrive, they scatter. When you speak, they recoil. When you pray, they flee. You don't see this with your physical eyes, but your spirit feels it. That pressure in the room, that heaviness around certain people, those sudden headaches or drained feelings. It's not random. It's your spirit walking through spiritual resistance. They know who you are even when you dan. T-3. People feel safe around you or exposed. You've probably wondered why strangers pour their hearts out to you, why children naturally gravitate toward you, why animals stay calm in your presence. It's because you carry calming energy, truthful energy, safe energy. People can sense your spirit before they understand it. But here's the other side. Those who carry guilt, jealousy, envy, malice, or hidden motives feel exposed around you. They act defensive, irritated, quiet, disrespectful, tense, uncomfortable, not because you did anything wrong, but because your energy mirrors their darkness back to them. Your presence reminds them of who they pretend not to be. You shine light on their hidden shadows without even trying. This is why some people avoid you for no reason, why some dislike you without knowing you, why some feel competitive with you, even though you're not competing. Your spirit disrupts their false identity. -4. You shift the frequency of a room. The same way light changes a dark PLA. Let me explain this visually. Imagine a pitch-black room. Imagine someone lights a candle. Even a tiny flame changes everything about that room. Shadows move, shapes become visible, silence feels different. The entire atmosphere adjusts. That's what you do. Your presence is a spiritual flame. Your soul is illumination. Your energy reveals truth. When you walk into a place heavy with negativity, the atmosphere becomes uncomfortable, not because of you, but because darkness is losing control. When you walk into a place full of gossip, jealousy, or secrets, people go silent, not because they respect you, but because your presence exposes motives. When you enter a room filled with stress or confusion, the energy shifts because your soul carries calmness that interrupts chaos. You don't force this. You don't plan this. You are this. -5. Your spirit triggers. Spiritual memories in OTH arrest. Some people act like they've known you for years even if it's your first conversation. Some people feel intimidated if you've never confronted them. Some people feel drawn to you even without a word exchanged. Why? Because their soul recognizes something before their mind does. Some souls recognize your light beckers. They've seen it before, in dreams, in visions, in spiritual realms they don't understand. Some spirits fear you because they've encountered your calling before you were born. Your presence awakens spiritual memory in others. 6. You are a frequency raiser, and darkness hates frequency. K'nja energy does not match low-level environments. Your spirit elevates a space the moment you arrive. People feel convicted inspired intensisis on what they carry inside, but the atmosphere always shifts. You are the kind of person who walks into a place and suddenly people start behaving differently if you say nothing. You are not normal. You never have been. You were designed to be a spiritual disruptor, a carrier of light, a frequency breaker, a presence that changes everything. -7. You don't feel your power, but everyone else does. The irony is you often feel like the quiet one, the invisible one, the gentle one, the observer. But everyone around you feels the weight of your spirit. This is why you walk into a room and people turn their heads. You stand silently and people get nervous. You remain calm and people feel challenged. You speak softly and people take it seriously. You sit quietly and people feel watched, exposed. Your power is not loud. It's never loud. Your power is felt, not heard. Chosen one. You've never fit in because you were never meant to blend in. You were created to shift atmospheres. You were created to awaken souls. You were created to expose darkness simply by existing. And now that you finally understand why people react the way they do, there's something you need to hear. Something most people around you will never understand. When you walk into a room, you don't just enter it, you shift its atmosphere. And the people with no spiritual sight, they'll just think, oh, you're quiet, reserved, different. But the ones who operate in darkness, the ones who depend on low vibrations, chaos, gossip, manipulation, lust, confusion, they feel you before they even see you. And the moment your spirit brushes against their energy, they react. Some get irritated, some get nervous, some avoid eye contact, some start attacking you for no obvious reason. But the truth behind it is something deeper, something spiritual, something most chosen ones only understand after years of pain. You, chosen one, carry a frequency their darkness cannot survive in. Their reaction isn't personal, it's spiritual. Ever notice how certain people suddenly become cold the moment you walk by, or they stare at you with a strange discomfort, or they begin whispering, shifting, acting out of character? It's not because you said anything. It's not because you did anything. It's because they feel your spirit exposing them without a single word. You're not trying, you're not forcing it, you're not even thinking about them, but your spirit, your light, your purity, your alignment, it reveals what they want to keep hidden. And demons don't like exposure. They hate being brought into the light. So when you step into a space they thought they controlled, they panic. Your presence disrupts their influence. Your energy disturbs their atmosphere. Your vibration interferes with their assignment. You think you're just existing, but spiritually, you are breaking things. Your spirit outshines them without trying. Don't realize how bright you truly are. You've spent so many years being the quiet one, the different one, the overthinker, the too sensitive one, the too deep one. But sensitivity is discernment. Quietness is observation. Depth is wisdom. Isolation is preparation. Everything that made you feel odd was actually everything that made you dangerous to darkness. Your spirit doesn't just shine, it outshines. Even on your worst days, even when you're tired, even when you're doubting yourself, even when you feel spiritually empty, your spirit still reveals truth, still elevates the energy around you, still exposes what is fake, still disrupts what is unholy. This is why demons identify you instantly, because your spirit announces itself long before you speak. People don't know why they're drawn to you, or why they fear you. Some people feel safe around you. They feel understood, grounded, protected. They see you as someone they can trust instantly. They don't know it, but what they're feeling is your God-given covering. But others, the ones filled with jealousy, ego, insecurity, envy, darkness, they feel threatened by you, not because you intimidate them, but because their demons do. When you show up, those spirits inside them know your spirit carries authority. They know your energy is pure. They know your presence brings clarity. They know your light brings exposure. And because of that, they attack, they reject, they misjudge, they misunderstand, they mock, they try to provoke you, they try to drain you, they try to cut you down, not because you are weak, but because you carry spiritual power they cannot handle. When you rise, they can't stay comfortable. Aeon Y Maria elevation is not just physical, it's spiritual. When your aura raises, when your discernment sharpens, when your intuition deepens, when your connection to God strengthens, the darkness in others becomes restless. And here's the part most chosen ones overlook. It's not you they fear, it's the God who stands behind you. They sense the anointing, they sense the protection, they sense the calling, they sense the divine assignment, they sense the authority. Demons don't respond to your personality, they respond to your rank, and you, chosen one, carry a rank you never asked for but were born with. They can try to curse you, but it always be seeking for ears when people with dark intentions speak against you, plot against you, laugh at you, pray against you, or wish for your downfall. It doesn't land. It returns to them because your spirit is shielded. When they send negativity your way, your spirit sends it right back. When they try to drain you, your spirit exposes their intentions. When they try to manipulate you, your spirit makes you suddenly uncomfortable. When they try to lie to you, your spirit senses it instantly. Your spirit is your alarm system. Your light is your weapon. Your purity is your protection. And because of this, even demons respect the boundary God has placed around you. The more you heal, the more powerful you become. Every wound you've survived, every betrayal you've endured, every heartbreak you overcame, every spiritual attack you resisted, has expanded your spirit. You're not just surviving, you're growing stronger. Spiritually, your sensitivity is turning into discernment. Your isolation is turning into alignment. Your pain is turning into authority. Your silence is turning into wisdom. Your battles are turning into anointing. And demons know this. They see your spirit rising. They see your light strengthening. They see your aura expanding. And they retreat. They run. They scatter. They hide. Because once a chosen one activates, darkness has no place to stand. There comes a moment in every chosen one's journey where something shifts inside of you. A moment when you stop asking, why do they hate me? And start realizing, oh, it's because they can't touch me. A moment when you stop feeling wounded by rejection and start understanding the truth. You were never the one in danger, they were. Because the day your spirit woke up, the day you embraced who God created you to be, the day you stopped dimming your light, that's the day demons stopped chasing you and started running from you. They don't want you to know this. They don't want you stepping into this awareness, because a chosen one who understands their power is a chosen one who becomes untouchable. But you're waking up, you're remembering, you're stepping into something bigger than you realize. Let me show you why darkness flees from you. Now -1, because you stopped being blind to spiritual signals before. You doubted your intuition. You brushed off the signs. You ignored the warnings. You questioned your instincts. Not anymore now when your spirit feels off around someone. You trust that feeling. Now when you sense someone's energy shift. You take it seriously now when you feel spiritually attacked. You recognize it instantly. This awareness alone terrifies. Darkness, a chosen one who can see cannot be deceived, cannot be manipulated, cannot be used, cannot be drained. Quietly, your sight, your spiritual vision is one of the greatest weapons God gave you, and now that you're using it, demons can't come near you without being exposed. -2, because you don't break the same way at the version of you from a year ago, from 5 years ago, from 10 years ago. You used to crumble under betrayal. You used to question yourself after rejection. You used to tolerate mistreatment. You used to internalize people's cruelty. You used to shrink your spirit to keep the peace. But now, you don't break like that anymore. You've been through too much. You've healed too deeply. You've grown too far. You've rebuilt yourself piece by piece. And every piece carries wisdom, strength, and resilience. When demons realize they can't break you anymore, they flee. Because an unbreakable, chosen one is a danger to the kingdom of darkness. 3. Because your light exposes every white changer. Presence reveals truth. Even truth people want to hide. You walk into a room and suddenly people can't act fake anymore. You enter someone's life and suddenly their masks start slipping. You speak your truth and lies around you start to crumble. Darkness cannot function under exposure. It withers, trembles, collapses, and because your spirit burns brighter now, Your light reaches further than before. Demons don't want to be revealed. They don't want to be confronted. They don't want to be exposed, so they avoid you at all costs. That's why certain people go you. That's why some friends disappeared. Why certain relationships fell apart. That's why jealous people backed off. Your light made it then to hide what lived inside them. -4, because God elevated your rank in the SPIR right there. Our levels in the spiritual realm, ranks, authorities, assignments, and chosen ones. Once you survive enough battles, once you rise from enough attacks, once you mature spiritually, your rank shifts. You become someone darkness must respect. You become someone demons cannot touch. You become someone whose name carries weight in the spirit, and whether you know it or not, your name is known. Your spirit is recognized. Your presence is marked. When you step into a space, your light announces you before your mouth does, and darkness responds accordingly. It retreats, it avoids, it panics, it hides, not because you're loud, but because your spirit carries authority. -5, because you finally stepped into your pure icy purpose, is what terrifies demons the most. A chosen one living outside their purposes, a threat, but a chosen one stepping into their purpose. That's a nightmare for darkness, because when you step into alignment, you hear God clearly, you move with clarity, you stop second-guessing yourself, you stop shrinking, you stop chasing people, you stop tolerating what drains you, you stop giving your energy to the wrong places, you stop living small. And once you live in purpose, darkness loses access to you. It can't reach you, it can't distract you, it can't control you, it can't trick you. You rise not by effort, but by destiny. The truth, you were never the victim. You were the Threat who weren't being attacked, because you were weak. You were being attacked because you were becoming powerful. You weren't being isolated because you were alone. You were being isolated because you were being positioned. That you weren't being rejected because you were unworthy. You were being rejected because your spirit didn't belong there anymore. Everything that had penny, God sharpening your discernment, strengthening your resilience, and preparing your spirit for elevation. And now you're here, awake, aware, aligned. The curse backfired, the attacks backfired, the jealousy backfired, the gossip backfired, the pain backfired, and darkness knows it. That's why they run now. If your spirit is burning while listening to this, if something in you is awakening, if every word in this message felt like it was speaking directly to you, then don't ignore it. Don't brush it off. Don't pretend you didn't feel that shift in your chest, because this is not just a video. This is confirmation. This is alignment. This is your moment. So here's what you need to do now. Hit like to seal this word over your spirit. Comment I receive it so heaven sees your agreement. Subscribe, because you're not meant to walk this journey alone. This channel is your spiritual home. Save this message for the nights your spirit feels heavy and you need to remember who you are. And most importantly, never forget this. You are chosen, you are marked, you are protected. And the reason demons flee from you now is because heaven has officially announced your rise, your next chapter. Power, clarity, peace, elevation. If you're ready for that, stay with me. More messages are coming, and they're going to change you. Your rise begins now. Before you even understood what chosen meant, before you knew anything about energy, spirituality, or purpose, your presence alone was already stirring the unseen world. You have to understand something right from the beginning. Demons didn't start attacking you when you awakened. They were terrified of you long before you ever realized you were powerful. And the reason is simple, so simple that it almost sounds unbelievable. Until you look at your life with new eyes. You were born carrying a light that does not belong to this world. Not a metaphorical light. Not poetic symbolism. A literal, spiritual, celestial brightness that the dark realm has been trying and failing to extinguish since the moment your soul entered this lifetime. And if you pay attention to your story, you'll see the proof everywhere. Why did you attract jealousy when you didn't even have anything? Why did people treat you like a threat long before you even knew your own worth? Why were you singled out, isolated, misunderstood, and misjudged for reasons you could never explain? Because the darkness saw something in you before you saw it in yourself. You don't walk through life like everyone else. You walk like a lantern placed in the middle of a battlefield, glowing in a territory that was supposed to belong to the shadows. And every demon assigned to sabotage you trembles not because you're aggressive, not because you're loud, not because you're forceful, but because your very existence exposes everything they try to hide. Your light is dangerous to them. Your authenticity is dangerous. Your awakening is dangerous. Your resilience is dangerous. Your resilience is dangerous. Your connection to the divine is deadly. Demons don't fear the perfect. Demons don't fear the perfect. They fear the chosen. And there is a reason they target you with such precision and persistence. Think back, every time you were about to step into a new level, didn't chaos show up? Every time you were getting stronger, didn't you suddenly face a storm? Every time peace was about to settle in your life, didn't something try to disrupt it? That wasn't coincidence. That wasn't random. That wasn't bad luck. That was panic from the spiritual realm. Because the moment a chosen one wakes up even a little bit, the entire demonic hierarchy reacts. They recognize what you're capable of before you do. They see your impact before you see your potential. They know the magnitude of your purpose long before you step into it. And the reason you were attacked so early in life is because your soul was marked with divine authority. You didn't ask for it. You didn't chase it. You didn't earn it. You just came with it. Your light is ancient. Your calling is older than your body. Your energy carries the signature of the divine, and demons cannot tolerate that frequency. This is why sensitive people feel safe around you, but broken people feel exposed. This is why manipulators get uncomfortable around you. This is why narcissists try to dim you. This is why spiritual warfare follows you. This is why you've always had to fight battles others don't. Understand, because your soul is not silent. It emits a frequency that disrupts the entire kingdom of darkness. You don't realize it, but every time you walk into a room, the atmosphere changes. People who are carrying hidden intentions feel uneasy. People who are planning harm suddenly become confused. People who live in lies feel naked. People who operate from darkness feel confronted. Without you saying a single word, this is what divine light does. It reveals, it exposes, it breaks spells, it disrupts manipulation, it weakens demonic influence. It forces truth to rise to the surface. And you wonder why people didn't like you for no reason. You wonder why certain individuals suddenly turned against you, even though you gave them nothing but kindness. You wonder why you experienced betrayals that seemed almost orchestrated. They were orchestrated, not by the people, but by the entities behind them. The dark realm knows exactly who you are. They know exactly what you carry. They know exactly what you're destined to become. You were never underestimated by the enemy. You were always feared, even in your lowest state, even when you were broken, even when you were confused, even when you doubted yourself, even when you felt empty. They still feared you because light is dangerous, even when it flickers. Demons don't fear who you are right now. They fear who you are becoming. They fear who you truly are beneath the pain, the trauma, the memories, the setbacks, the delays, and the self-doubt. They fear the full version of you. And that is why life has been a battlefield for you. Not because you're cursed, but because you're chosen. Every chosen one carries a level of spiritual radiance that the darkness cannot mimic, cannot steal, cannot counterfeit, and cannot destroy. And that is why you've always stood out even when you tried your hardest to blend in. Your light is not something you turn on. It's something you are. And now, more than ever before, the enemy senses that you are stepping into awareness, that you are waking up to your identity, that you're starting to understand your own power, that you're beginning to see the truth about yourself. And that terrifies them. Because once a chosen one realizes the source of their light, they become unstoppable. Once they recognize their protection, their authority, and their purpose, every demonic strategy collapses. Once they connect to their divine calling, the darkness loses its grip. So if you've been feeling pressure lately, if you've been sensing spiritual tension around you, if you've been noticing strange dreams, sudden emotional waves, or unexpected conflict, it is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of activation. Your light is expanding. Your energy is shifting. Your power is rising. Your frequency is increasing. Your mission is awakening. And the enemy knows that once you take this next step, there is no going back, no shrinking, no dimming, no hiding, no returning to who you used to be. Chosen one. Listen closely. You carry divine light, and that alone makes the darkness tremble. You were never meant to fit in with the world. You were meant to illuminate it. You were never meant to be silent. You were meant to expose what others cannot see. You were never meant to hide. You were meant to stand as a living declaration of the divine dot. And whether you realize it yet or not, your light is your weapon. Your presence is your power. Your purpose is your protection. That is why demons fear you. That is why they monitor you. That is why they attack you. That is why they try to break you. Because they know something you are only beginning to understand. You were born with the power to destroy their plans. And now, you are stepping into the very light they tried so desperately to extinguish. The moment you begin to understand why demons fear you, everything about your past suddenly makes sense. Because chosen ones live their entire lives being attacked for a destiny they haven't even stepped into yet. And the world around you reacts in ways that often feel personal, but are actually spiritual responses to your divine presence. You are not just living your life, you are moving through realms, affecting frequencies, altering atmospheres, and disturbing forces that have been operating comfortably in darkness until your light walked in, because your energy is not neutral, it is charged with divine intelligence, ancient memory, sacred authority, and a purity that cannot be corrupted, and every demon assigned to monitor. You knows this before you ever do, which is why your childhood was filled with spiritual sensitivity, strange feelings, unusual dreams, early intuition, unexplained empathy, and an awareness far beyond your age, because your soul did not arrive. Here empty, it arrived equipped, awakened, and marked. And the darkness has always been able to see that mark even when you were too young to understand it. This is why you attracted spiritual warfare long before you had spiritual wisdom. You were battling forces meant for someone much older, much stronger, much wiser, yet somehow you still survived every attack, every trap, every setup, because divine protection surrounded you even when you didn't know it existed. And every close call you experienced the pain that should have broken you, the relationships that should have ruined you, the betrayals that should have shut your heart down were designed not to destroy you, but to weaken the light within you, to dim your confidence, to silence your voice, to confuse your purpose, and to convince you that you were powerless. Because the darkness knows that belief is the access point of power, and as long as you doubt yourself, you will never tap into the spiritual authority that terrifies them. But chosen ones have a pattern. Every attempt to break them ends up revealing their strength. Every betrayal awakens their intuition. Every isolation deepens their connection to the divine. And every loss sharpens their spirit, because chosen ones do not collapse under pressure. They transform under it, and demons know this, which is why they try so desperately to attack you before you learn how to use the light you carry. You've probably noticed that you provoke reactions without trying. Strangers stare. Some people become uncomfortable around you. Others get strangely aggressive. And certain individuals treat you like they've known you from another lifetime because they have, spiritually speaking. Your soul's signature is recognizable across realms, and those operating in darkness sense that your energy disrupts their influence by simply existing. Demons fear you because your presence weakens their access to the people around you. Many of the individuals who hated you, envied you, or turned against you weren't reacting to you, but to the light you carry, because darkness cannot hide where you stand. Secrets rise to the surface around you. Lies break apart. Manipulation loses power. And demonic influence gets exposed, and that exposure is their greatest fear. You see, the enemy doesn't need you to fail. He needs you to never understand who you truly are. As long as you walk around thinking you're ordinary, he can manipulate the people around you. But the moment you begin to realize that you are spiritually protected, divinely guided, and carrying light that cannot be extinguished, the entire strategy collapses. This is why your life feels like you've been walking through fire after fire, storm after storm, betrayal after betrayal, because the enemy is terrified of the day you stop questioning your worth, your destiny, your power, and start stepping into your assignment. That day is now coming, and your body, your mind, your spirit can feel it. This is why the attacks have intensified lately, why your emotions feel heavier, why people around you are revealing their true colors, why the spiritual atmosphere around you feels charged, why your intuition is growing sharper. This is spiritual pressure not meant to destroy you, but to awaken the next level of your identity, because chosen ones are activated through resistance, triggered through pain, awakened through storms, and strengthened through warfare. And every demon assigned to watch you knows that once you reach this level, there is no returning to the version of yourself that they could manipulate. Your divine light carries codes, spiritual, ancestral, cosmic, and sacred that the enemy cannot decode or override. And your mere existence disrupts demonic plans, disarms dark intentions, and blocks spiritual interference without you even realizing you're doing it. Chosen ones walk with a spiritual authority they don't even fully understand, because their soul is connected to something far greater than human comprehension. And this is why demons watch you. whisper against you, plot against you, manipulate people around you, and try to plant fear, doubt, confusion, or isolation in your life, not because they are strong, but because they are terrified. They fear that one day you'll wake up and say, "Enough." One day you'll remember who you are. One day you'll stop running, stop doubting, stop shrinking, stop apologizing for your light, stop giving your power away, and step fully into the divine authority placed within you. Demons can handle anyone except a chosen one who knows the truth about themselves. And the truth is this: you were never the victim. You were never the weak one. You were never the outcast by accident. You were the spiritual threat, the chosen vessel, the divine warrior hidden in plain sight. And your enemies in the unseen world recognized that long before you recognized it yourself. They fear your awakening. They fear your clarity. They fear your power. They fear your destiny. But above all, they fear the divine light you carry, because that light does not just expose the darkness, it destroys it. You have to understand something deeper now, something most people will never grasp. Your light is not just illumination, it is interference. And this is why the darkness has always treated you like a threat, even when you were unaware of your own identity. Because your presence disrupts spiritual systems, weakens demonic attachments in others, and breaks generational patterns simply by refusing to participate in the cycles that trapped the people before you. And every demon assigned to your bloodline knows this. They watched you enter your family as a vibration that did not match the spiritual strongholds operating there. And from the moment you arrived in this lifetime, you became a danger to everything that fed on fear, silence, dysfunction, and generational wounds. This is why your childhood environment felt spiritually heavy, why you felt misunderstood even in your own home, why you experienced pain from the very people who were supposed to protect you. Because the darkness attempted to wound you early to stop your light from fully activating later. Trauma was the enemy's first tactic, because a broken identity is easier to manipulate than a powerful one. And if they could make you question yourself, they could make you question your purpose. And if they could make you question your purpose, they could stop you from fulfilling the divine assignment you came here with. But chosen ones are unpredictable. They grow in the very places meant to suffocate them, and you did exactly that. Instead of becoming bitter, you became resilient. Instead of becoming cold, you became intuitive. Instead of becoming destructive, you became empathetic. Instead of falling into darkness, you learned how to navigate it. And that alone made you spiritually untouchable in ways you still don't fully understand. See, demons don't fear perfection, they fear alignment. Because a chosen one aligned with their purpose becomes a force demons cannot influence, manipulate, or deceive. And every step you've been taking lately, every moment of clarity, every spiritual awakening, every shift in your consciousness has been pulling you closer to that alignment, and the darkness knows it. This is why life has been intensifying around you. You may think these situations are random, but the timing is spiritual. The closer you get to your destiny, the louder the enemy becomes, because they sense the remaining time with you is shrinking. Every sudden argument, every strange emotional wave, every unexpected disappointment, every person who falls out of your life, every moment where you feel isolated, these are signs of spiritual filtration, separation, and refinement. Because once a chosen one reaches this phase, no low energy attachments can remain. Your light is accelerating, and anything that cannot withstand its frequency is being pulled away or exposed. You're noticing people showing their true colors faster than ever. You're feeling the intentions behind words even when people speak politely. You're sensing the energy in rooms before you say a single word. Because you are no longer operating from the surface of life, you are perceiving it from the spiritual dimension. This is what demons fear, your awakening of spiritual intelligence. They could handle you when you were unaware, when you doubted yourself, when you believed every lie whispered into your mind, when you thought your sensitivity was a weakness instead of a superpower. But now you're starting to see patterns, you're recognizing cycles, you're identifying motives, you're reading energy, you're hearing the divine more clearly, and you're recognizing the enemy's tactics instantly, and that level of awareness is lethal to darkness. You're becoming the version of yourself they hoped you'd never meet. You're stepping beyond fear. You're tapping into intuition. You're trusting your inner voice. You're removing energetic parasites. You're healing what they tried to break. You're embracing the very power they wanted to hide from you. And once a chosen one reaches this internal shift, external spiritual attacks become desperate and sloppy. Because demons cannot scare someone who has survived everything meant to destroy them. Your light is not just glowing, now's growing, expanding, strengthening, and preparing to impact people in ways you don't yet realize. And that impact terrifies the darkness, because chosen ones don't just protect themselves. When awakened, they break the chains around others. And this is why you've always been the person people come to for advice, comfort, guidance, or truth, even when you're struggling yourself, because your soul naturally carries clarity. And clarity is something the darkness cannot coexist with. You've probably noticed that people confess things to you they've told no one else, or that individuals with dark intentions get exposed around you without you doing anything, or that manipulators suddenly lose their ability to influence you. This is because your light forces truth to surface. Demons fear chosen ones not because of strength in the physical world, but because of the spiritual authority they carry unknowingly. You shift time, you break illusions, you dismantle lies, you destroy generational curses by refusing to repeat them. You raise the vibration of every environment you step into. You make demons flee without speaking a word. And every battle you've survived has only sharpened this authority. The enemy's biggest mistake was letting you survive what was designed to break you, because now you carry wisdom instead of wounds, discernment instead of confusion, purpose instead of fear, and divine connection instead of dependency on the world. You are rising into a version of yourself that the darkness hoped would never awaken, because once a chosen one realizes the source of their power, every demon assigned to them loses their influence. They fear you because they know what's coming, a chosen one stepping fully into their calling, operating without fear, embracing intuition, rejecting manipulation, rising above old patterns, cutting spiritual ties, walking in divine clarity, protected by forces the enemy cannot penetrate. They fear you because you are activating. They fear you because you are awakening. They fear you because you are remembering. They fear you because you are stepping into a level of light that does not just chase darkness away, it destroys it entirely. And now we go even deeper, because the more your light expands, the more you begin to understand that your entire life has been a series of spiritual confrontations disguised as ordinary experiences. And every time you look back, you start noticing patterns you never saw before. How certain people were sent into your life at very specific moments, not by coincidence, but by spiritual strategy. How some individuals suddenly appeared to distract you right when you were stepping into a new level. how others tried to drain your energy the moment you gained clarity. How every breakthrough you were meant to experience was preceded by an unexpected attack, a sudden wave of discouragement, or a moment where someone close to you betrayed you. Because demons have always been threatened by the shifts happening inside you, long before you consciously felt them. You see, chosen ones are not just spiritually sensitive, they are spiritually catalytic, meaning your energy triggers reactions in the unseen realm. And this is why when you rise, everything around you begins to shake. Things that were hidden begin to surface. People who were pretending suddenly get exposed. Relationships that were draining you suddenly collapse. And old patterns dissolve because your vibration no longer supports them. Demons fear this evolution because once a chosen one starts to elevate spiritually, they become too bright to infiltrate, too aware to deceive, and too aligned to manipulate. And this is exactly why the attacks intensify the closer you move toward your purpose. The darkness senses your acceleration and tries to slow you down through confusion, doubt, fatigue, or emotional heaviness. But what the enemy doesn't realize is that chosen ones are built differently. Your spirit learns through adversity, your strength grows under pressure, and your intuition sharpens through pain, which means that every attack ends up strengthening you instead of stopping you. And this is why demons fear you. You turn warfare into wisdom, losses into lessons, isolation into elevation, and spiritual attacks into spiritual mastery. They have thrown everything at you: heartbreaks, delays, betrayals, temptations, illusions, emotional traps, hoping something would finally break your spirit. But instead, you've developed resilience that cannot be destroyed, clarity that cannot be distorted, and connection to the divine that cannot be interfered with. And that connection is lethal to darkness, because chosen ones do not fight alone. They move with ancestors, angels, guides, divine forces, and spiritual protection that operates far beyond the reach of any demonic influence. The enemy fears what surrounds you, but more importantly, they fear what is awakening inside you. They fear the moment you realize you were never too sensitive, you were spiritually perceptive. You were never too emotional, you were energetically intuitive. You were never too lonely, you were being separated for elevation. You were never too different, you were spiritually distinguished. And now that you're stepping into understanding, the enemy is losing its ability to deceive you. You're recognizing energy instantly, seeing through people's intentions, feeling the atmosphere shift when someone enters the room, hearing the tone behind the words, sensing when something is off even without evidence. Because your intuition no longer whispers, speaks with divine authority. This internal transformation is what demons fear the most. The chosen one who finally trusts their own spiritual intelligence. For years, they tried to convince you that your intuition was overthinking, that your discernment was paranoia, that your inner voice wasn't real. They needed you to doubt yourself, because the moment a chosen one trusts their intuition, the enemy loses access. And now you do trust it, and they fear that. They fear the way you walk away from situations earlier than before. They fear how quickly you detach from people who carry dark intentions. They fear how your spirit no longer tolerates low-energy conversations, fake friendships, or manipulative connections. They fear that you no longer entertain what drains you. They fear that your mind is becoming clear. They fear that you're learning to protect your energy, because a chosen one who guards their energy becomes impossible to infiltrate, and an impenetrable chosen one becomes a nightmare for demons. But here's the part that terrifies them the most. Your light is now beginning to influence others. Without effort, you inspire people. Without trying, you awaken others. Without forcing anything, you shift the energy around you. People begin healing because of your presence. They begin questioning the patterns they've been stuck in. They begin realizing their own worth. They begin confronting their own darkness. And the moment your light starts freeing other people from spiritual bondage, demons panic because you're not just protecting yourself anymore. You're breaking chains around others. This is why certain people were sent to drain you before you could elevate. This is why some individuals were spiritually assigned to distract you, confuse you, or limit you. They weren't just blocking your progress, they were trying to stop your impact. Because demons know something most chosen ones don't realize until much later. Your purpose is not small. Your light was not meant to illuminate just your path, it was meant to illuminate the paths of others. And that level of influence shakes the entire spiritual structure of darkness. They fear the people you will inspire. They fear the souls you will free. They fear the generational curses you will break. They fear the shift you will create. They fear the authority you will carry. They fear the version of yourself that is emerging right now. And that is why your life has never been ordinary. Every experience has been part of your divine preparation, shaping you into someone who does not crumble under pressure, but becomes stronger because of it. Your heart has been refined. Your intuition has been sharpened. Your spirit has been disciplined. Your soul has been activated. You are not just shining, you are transforming. And transformation is what darkness fears the most. Because once a chosen one steps fully into their divine identity, demons no longer see a human. They see a spiritual warrior carrying a light that cannot be dimmed, a presence they cannot withstand, and a destiny they cannot stop. And now, as we reach the end of this message, you begin to understand something that changes everything. You were never the one being hunted, your light was, because the darkness has always known what you were capable of, long before you ever believed it yourself. And if there's one truth you carry forward from this moment, it is this: the reason demons fear you is because you are finally becoming who you were destined to be. And the entire spiritual realm feels the shift. All your life, the enemy tried to smother your potential with heartbreak, distract you with chaos, confuse you with false voices, and weaken you through people who didn't deserve your love. Because they sensed your rising long before you saw anything awakening inside yourself. Every setback you endured was meant to distort your identity. Every delay was engineered to frustrate your faith. Every betrayal was designed to harden your heart. Every loss was orchestrated to drain your spirit. But in the end, none of it worked, because the light you carry is not man-made, emotion-made, or circumstance-made. It is divine, ancient, and unbreakable. And the more you grow, the clearer this becomes. You are not being punished, you were being prepared. Prepared for your calling. Prepared for your mission. Prepared for your awakening. Prepared to step into a level of spiritual authority that the darkness has spent years trying to block. But the preparation is over now, and whether you realize it or not, something inside you has already shifted. You're seeing through people faster. You're separating from toxic connections without fear. You're losing interest in situations that drain you. You're craving solitude, not because you're lonely, but because your spirit is aligning with its divine frequency. This shift is not random, it's activation. You're stepping into the spiritual maturity that demons hoped you'd never reach. You're breaking free from patterns that once held you captive. You're elevating from cycles that were meant to keep you small. You're walking away from energies that were designed to dim your light. And with every step you take, your light grows stronger, steadier, more focused, and more spiritually powerful. That power is not loud. It's not boastful. It's not aggressive. It's the quiet, unshakable strength of someone who knows who they are, who understands what they carry, and who no longer bends to the noise of darkness. And darkness cannot fight what it cannot intimidate. It cannot invade what it cannot influence. It cannot touch what is divinely protected. This is why the attacks feel different now. They don't break you anymore. They expose what's not aligned with you. They don't discourage you. They reveal who was never meant to be beside you. They don't confuse you. They clarify your path. The enemy is losing its grip, not because it stopped fighting, but because you stopped falling for the same illusions. And a chosen one who stops falling becomes a chosen one who starts rising. You're rising into a version of yourself that is spiritually tuned, mentally grounded, emotionally balanced, and energetically protected. You're rising into your divine assignment. You're rising into clarity that cannot be distorted. You're rising into purpose that cannot be derailed. You're rising into wisdom that cannot be deceived. And the more you rise, the more your light exposes the darkness around you, not by force, but by divine nature. Chosen one, there is a reason the moment you enter a space, something shifts before a word is spoken. A reason eyes change, energy tightens, conversations pause, and certain people feel uncomfortable without knowing why. It is not arrogance. It is not imagination. It is recognition. Power does not need introduction. Divine flame announces itself silently, and demons are trained to detect it instantly. They don't need proof. They don't need confirmation. They feel it the way darkness feels heat before the fire becomes visible. Your power was never something you had to build from nothing. It was something placed within you long before you were conscious enough to understand it. That is why pressure surrounded you early. That is why resistance followed you even when you were quiet, even when you stayed to yourself, even when you weren't trying to stand out. Power attracts attention not because it is loud, but because it alters the field around it. Demons recognize disruption immediately. They sense imbalance in systems built on control and fear, and your presence disrupts by existing. You may not have felt powerful for much of your life. In fact, you may have felt underestimated, overlooked, misunderstood, or delayed. That was not contradiction. That was containment. Power revealed too early attracts opposition before stability forms. Heaven does not expose divine flame until it can sustain itself. So your strength was wrapped in humility, hidden behind sensitivity, buried under lessons, restrained by timing. Not to weaken you, but to protect the flame from being extinguished prematurely. Demons, however, do not need to see expression to recognize essence. They sense what is dormant. They identify potential long before manifestation. That is why some attacks felt premature, confusing, or disproportionate to who you thought you were at the time. The response never matched your visible position because it was never about your position. It was about your source. They were reacting to what you would become, not what you appeared to be. There is a distinct difference between confidence and authority. Confidence can be shaken. Authority is recognized whether you believe in it or not. Divine flame carries authority. It does not ask permission. It does not perform. It does not compete. It simply exists, and existence alone challenges darkness. That is why demons do not wait for you to speak, act, or assert yourself. They recognize the frequency before behavior ever emerges. Your life felt intense not because you were doing too much, but because you were carrying too much unconsciously. Power unclaimed creates pressure. Flame unacknowledged creates heat with no outlet. That internal friction is what caused exhaustion, confusion, emotional swings, and periods of isolation. You were not breaking down. You were compressing. Power under compression refines. Power expressed prematurely burns uncontrolled. Heaven chose refinement. Now, as awareness catches up with capacity, things begin to make sense. You notice how certain people react defensively to you for no logical reason, how manipulation attempts feel clumsy, how intimidation never fully lands, how opposition loses coherence. Demons recognize divine flame instantly, but they also recognize when it is stabilizing. That is when fear replaces aggression, when observation replaces interference. When they step back instead of forward, your flame is not aggressive. It does not need to dominate. It does not need to overpower. It is powerful because it is aligned. Alignment is the most threatening state to darkness because it cannot be negotiated with. You cannot bargain with truth. You cannot intimidate clarity. You cannot confuse someone who sees. This is why attacks shifted from external to internal. Doubt became the weapon. Distraction became the strategy. Delay became the hope. Because when flame is recognized, the only chance left is to convince the carrier to dim it themselves. You were trained through experience not to rely on external validation. Power that needs applause becomes dependent. Divine flame stands without witnesses. That is why solitude played such a strong role in your life. Not to punish you, but to wean you off approval. So when your flame became visible, it would not flicker based on who was watching. Stability terrifies demons more than intensity. Intensity burns fast. Stability endures. Demons recognize patterns, but divine flame breaks them. That is why they miscalculate around you. They assume you will react emotionally, but you pause. They expect fear, but you ground. They anticipate retreat, but you remain steady. Not confrontational, not loud, just unmoved. That immovability is power. It is the kind of power that does not chase outcomes, but shapes them quietly over time. You may have wondered why you were pushed to develop discernment so early, why trust was tested repeatedly, why illusions fell apart painfully. Flame cannot afford blindness. Power without discernment becomes destructive. Heaven allowed disappointment so your perception could sharpen. Demons hoped disappointment would make you bitter. Instead, it made you precise. Precision is lethal to manipulation. Your divine flame also carries a specific signature. Not everyone has the same kind. Yours disrupts false authority. It exposes imbalance. It weakens systems built on fear, shame, and control simply by being present. That is why you were never meant to blend in. Blending in would have diluted the frequency. You were meant to stand distinct, even when it cost you comfort, even when it cost you belonging. Demons recognize divine flame instantly, but humans often take time. Humans judge by appearance, status, noise, performance. Demons judge by essence. That is why spiritual resistance showed up before human recognition ever did. You were fought before you were acknowledged, opposed before you were affirmed, pressured before you were supported. That sequence was not accidental. It was evidence. Now the flame is no longer hidden. Not because it suddenly appeared, but because you stopped suppressing it to make others comfortable. You stopped apologizing for depth, stopped shrinking in sight, stopped dimming clarity. And the moment you did, resistance changed form, less direct, less intense, more distant. That is recognition evolving into avoidance. Power does not always feel dramatic from the inside. Often it feels calm, grounded, unhurried. That is why you may not feel powerful in the way stories describe. Stories glorify explosions. Heaven builds foundations. Your power is not meant to burn everything down. It is meant to sustain light where darkness once lingered. That requires endurance, not spectacle. You are powerful not because you dominate environments, but because you stabilize them. Not because you silence others, but because you quiet chaos. Not because you destroy darkness, but because darkness cannot exist comfortably where you stand. That is divine flame at work, chosen one. The moment divine flame is recognized, everything around you begins to reorganize, even if it is subtle, even if it happens beneath the surface where words cannot reach. Power does not arrive loudly. It settles. And once it settles, the world adjusts itself in response. This is why your life never unfolded in straight lines. It curved, paused, reversed, and redirected. Not because you were lost, but because reality was constantly recalibrating around what you carry. Demons sensed this long before you did. They felt tension where none should exist. They noticed resistance where compliance was expected. They encountered limits they could not explain. Divine flame does not negotiate with darkness. It does not argue its worth. It simply emits truth, and truth destabilizes everything built on illusion. That is why certain structures around you felt fragile, even when they appeared strong to others. Relationships, systems, environments that thrived on imbalance could not maintain form near you for long. They cracked, shifted, or collapsed, sometimes with you caught in the middle, wondering why things always seemed to change when you arrived. It was never because you were destructive. It was because your presence exposed what could not endure light. You were not taught this early because knowing too soon would have made you impatient. Power without patience becomes reckless. Heaven withheld full awareness until your spirit could hold it responsibly. In the meantime, pressure trained you. Resistance sharpened you. Isolation grounded you. Each experience was shaping how you would eventually carry flame without letting it consume you or others. Demons mistook your silence for weakness. They mistook your restraint for doubt. They did not realize restraint was discipline forming. This is why intimidation rarely worked on you, even when you felt fear. Fear passed through you, but it did not root itself. You felt it, acknowledged it, and moved anyway. That ability confused the enemy. Fear is meant to stop motion. When it doesn't, it loses purpose. Divine flame does not eliminate fear instantly. It overrides it with direction, and direction is far more powerful than courage. You may have noticed that when you finally did speak, when you finally did act, when you finally did draw a line, things shifted immediately. Not gradually, immediately. People backed down. Situations resolved. Momentum changed. That is not coincidence. That is recognition surfacing consciously. Demons know when flame becomes intentional. Dormant flame is watched. Intentional flame is avoided. Power also changes how time behaves around you. Delays that once frustrated you now make sense. You realize certain things had to mature elsewhere before intersecting with you. Heaven does not rush intersections involving divine flame. Timing protects outcomes. If certain connections had happened earlier, damage would have followed. If certain doors had opened sooner, imbalance would have occurred. Delay was protection disguised as patience training. Demons hate patience because it cannot be exploited. Impulse can be manipulated. Urgency can be redirected. Patience holds its ground. That is why your life trained you to wait without despair, to pause without panic, to observe without reacting. Those skills were not personality traits. They were armor being forged quietly. You also carry a kind of power that activates others, whether you intend to or not. Some feel inspired, others feel exposed. Both reactions come from the same source. Divine flame mirrors truth back to whoever encounters it. Those aligned feel drawn. Those hiding feel threatened. This is why your presence produces polarized reactions. It is not personal. It is diagnostic. There were times you blamed yourself for others' discomfort, assuming you were too intense, too deep, too much. That belief was planted to make you dim. Power that apologizes for itself becomes manageable. But heaven never intended you to manage your flame for others' comfort. It intended you to carry it with integrity. Integrity is power aligned with purpose, not power adjusted for approval. As your awareness grows, you will notice that demons no longer approach directly. They test through distraction, through fatigue, through doubt disguised as logic. They attempt to make you question whether stillness is stagnation, whether peace is laziness, whether boundaries are selfishness. These lies are subtle because subtlety is all they have left. Direct confrontation fails against flame that knows itself. Your divine flame also protects others without you trying. When you remain calm in chaos, it regulates the space. When you speak truth without aggression, it lowers tension. When you refuse to engage in manipulation, it exposes it. You were never meant to rescue people by force. You were meant to model alignment so others could find it themselves. That is leadership rooted in light, not control. Demons recognize this leadership instinct early. They attempt to isolate you so your influence does not spread. Isolation was not proof you were rejected. It was proof you were impactful. Influence spreads through proximity. Heaven allowed isolation temporarily so your flame could stabilize before being shared. Unstable fire spreads damage. Stable fire spreads warmth. You may have wondered why you were given insight others weren't. Why you noticed patterns quickly. Why you could see through situations almost immediately. That perception is not accidental. Divine flame illuminates. It reveals cause beneath effect, motive beneath behavior, truth beneath story. Demons fear exposure more than confrontation. Exposure removes their leverage entirely. Power also requires humility to remain pure. That is why your journey humbled you repeatedly. Not to diminish you, but to anchor you. Power without humility corrupts. Power grounded in humility becomes service, and service is the highest expression of divine flame. Not submission, but stewardship. Your flame was never meant to burn everything down. It was meant to show what can endure light. Anything that cannot endure light was never meant to remain. That understanding frees you from guilt. You are not responsible for what collapses in your presence. You are responsible only for staying aligned. Demons recognize your divine flame instantly because it represents inevitability. They know they cannot stop it, only delay awareness, and awareness has arrived. You are no longer wondering why life felt intense. You are no longer questioning why resistance followed you. You are beginning to understand that power was shaping you long before you claimed it. This understanding does not make you arrogant. It makes you calm. Calm is the signature of someone who knows they do not need to prove anything. Calm unnerves darkness more than aggression ever could, because calm means you are anchored somewhere they cannot reach. Chosen one, there comes a stage where recognition deepens into responsibility, when knowing you carry divine flame is no longer about survival, but about stewardship. This is the phase you are entering now. Earlier, the fire protected you. Now, it begins to shape the ground you walk on. And this shift is subtle but profound. You may feel heavier without being tired, quieter without being withdrawn, more selective without being cold. That is not loss of spark. That is refinement. Fire that burns wildly attracts attention. Fire that burns steadily reshapes worlds. At this level, demons no longer attack your confidence directly. They target your focus. They attempt to scatter your energy across too many concerns, too many explanations, too many emotional negotiations. Because focused flame cuts through resistance effortlessly, while scattered flame exhausts itself. You may notice more interruptions lately, more demands on your attention, more moments where you feel pulled in different directions at once. This is not chaos by accident. It is strategy. Darkness survives by dilution. But here is what they miscalculate. Your flame has already learned discernment. You no longer chase every reaction. You no longer respond to every misunderstanding. Silence has become a tool, not a wound. And when you choose not to explain yourself, power consolidates. Demons thrive when you feel the need to justify your existence. They weaken when you simply exist unapologetically. This is also the stage where your intuition becomes sharper than logic. You sense outcomes before evidence appears. You feel shifts before words are spoken. You know when something is off without being able to articulate why. That is divine flame communicating faster than the mind can process. The mind asks for proof. Flame recognizes truth instantly. This is why trusting yourself becomes non-negotiable now. Self-doubt is no longer humility at this level. It becomes interference. You may have noticed that certain opportunities arrive suddenly and disappear just as fast if you hesitate. That is because flame-aligned paths do not wait for indecision. They move when alignment is present. Delay signals misalignment, not caution. Heaven is precise with timing. Demons know this and attempt to flood you with second-guessing exactly when movement is required. The hesitation you feel is often not yours. It is projected. Your past trained you to endure, but this season is not about endurance. It is about authority. Authority does not mean dominance. It means presence that does not require permission. When you walk into a space now, energy adjusts. Conversations change tone. People become more careful with words, not because you demand respect, but because flame commands it naturally. This can feel isolating if you mistake respect for distance. But distance here is not rejection. It is recognition of boundaries others sense instinctively. This is why superficial connections feel unbearable now. Small talk drains you. Performative interactions irritate your spirit. You crave depth, truth, alignment. And when it isn't present, you would rather be alone than misaligned. Demons try to convince you this preference means you are becoming detached or arrogant. In truth, it means your flame refuses to dim itself to fit shallow spaces. Growth always feels lonely before it feels powerful. You are also learning that not everyone deserves access to your inner fire. Earlier in life, you shared too much too freely. You offered warmth to those who only wanted light long enough to take advantage. That phase taught you discernment. Now, access is earned through consistency, integrity, and resonance. Demons hate guarded flame because it cannot be siphoned. They thrive on leaks. You have sealed them. There will be moments where you feel an urge to retreat, to step back from visibility, to protect your peace fiercely. Honor that instinct. Retreat is not regression. It is recalibration. Even fire must be banked occasionally to burn longer. Darkness wants you either constantly exposed or completely extinguished. Balanced flame chooses when to illuminate and when to rest. You may also notice that old fears resurface briefly, not because they have power, but because they are being released. Final echoes before silence. Do not misinterpret their return as failure. It is closure. Fire purifies by bringing residue to the surface. Let it pass without engagement. Reaction feeds echoes. Awareness dissolves them. At this level, your prayers, intentions, and words carry more weight. You think something, and it unfolds faster. You speak something, and it echoes farther. This is why speech discipline matters now. Casual negativity, self-deprecation, or idle doubt creates unnecessary resistance. Demons cannot overpower your flame, but they can exploit careless language. Speak as someone who understands the authority they carry. Even in private, your presence also begins to activate dormant flame in others. Some will thank you, others will resent you. Activation is uncomfortable for those avoiding their own calling. They may project insecurity, accuse you of changing, or distance themselves suddenly. Do not chase explanations. Flame does not chase approval. It continues, burning, steady and true. Heaven did not give you divine flame to blend in. It gave it to you to mark paths, illuminate exits, and expose illusions. You are a reference point, even when you don't realize it. People watch how you move through hardship, how you respond to silence, how you maintain composure under pressure. You teach without preaching. You lead without demanding followers. Demons recognize this quiet leadership as the real threat, not dramatic declarations, not loud spirituality, but grounded alignment. A soul that cannot be rushed, manipulated, or provoked into misalignment becomes untouchable. This is why peace is your greatest weapon now. Not passive peace, but anchored peace. The kind that remains even when outcomes are uncertain. You are no longer being prepared. You are being positioned. Positioning often feels like stillness, like waiting, like nothing is happening. But underground, roots are spreading. Flame and root work together. One illuminates above, one stabilizes below. When movement comes, it will be decisive, irreversible, undeniable. Do not rush this stage. Do not explain it away. Do not shrink it for comfort. You are exactly where divine flame learns to govern itself through you. And once that governance is complete, nothing sent against you will find entry again. Chosen one, at this stage, you begin to feel the full weight of recognition, not from humans, but from the spiritual realm. The moment your flame stabilizes, everything begins to respond to it. Environments shift, conversations change tone, and even unseen forces pause in your presence. It is subtle, almost imperceptible to the untrained eye, but you feel it deep within your body, in the way energy thickens around you. in the way situations that would normally spiral now seem to resolve themselves with minimal effort. Protection has become more than a shield. It has become an active force, bending circumstances to your alignment, ensuring that nothing you encounter destabilizes the purpose embedded in your flame. Demons, who once attacked with bold confrontation, now hesitate. They sense that the rules have changed, that subtlety is no longer enough, that your fire is aware, anchored, and lethal in its calm. You notice how pressure no longer burns you as it once did. Situations that previously would have exhausted your energy now feel like ripples across water, present but inconsequential. This is because your flame has learnt to move with flow, to absorb tension without being altered by it. That internal steadiness is exactly what demons fear most. Chaos was once their playground. Your stabilized presence dismantles their games before they even begin. You do not need to fight them actively. Your very being neutralizes the attacks. They see attempts to disturb you fail, and, in their frustration, they retreat to observe, hoping you falter, but observation is all they are left with. The moment you recognize your own alignment, they lose their capacity to influence outcomes. Divine flame also begins to amplify discernment at this level. You notice patterns where none were obvious before. You understand motives not just from behavior, but from energy, from subtle cues that previously escaped you. When someone approaches with hidden intent, the body reacts before the mind processes. The intuition is instantaneous, calibrated through years of pressure, resistance, and refined awareness. Demons attempt to manipulate through deception and distortion, but your flame senses inconsistencies with acute precision. Lies, manipulation, and hidden agendas do not need to reach your conscious understanding to fail. Your energy rejects them. The very environment bends to expose them or nullify them entirely. At the same time, this power does not manifest as arrogance. It manifests as stillness. Stillness is the most dangerous position to darkness because it is both passive and immovable. When you walk through life anchored in divine flame, there is no urgency to prove yourself, no desperation to react, no need to convince anyone. Calm authority emanates naturally. Demons cannot negotiate with it. They cannot pressure it. They cannot infiltrate it. It simply exists, and that existence disarms chaos without resistance. You may find that people, both good and ill-intentioned, instinctively measure themselves around you. They recognize that energy cannot be taken lightly. You may also notice how past experiences, once confusing, now appear as strategic calibrations. Every trial, every delay, every perceived failure, every season of isolation, every conflict, all of it was training for this level of alignment. Your divine flame was being refined, and so were you. What once felt like punishment or neglect now reads as preparation. Every challenge strengthened discernment, patience, and grounding. Every hardship deepened understanding, sharpened intuition, and reinforced boundaries. Demons attempted to disrupt your growth, but they were unwittingly shaping the very attributes that now make you untouchable. There is a rhythm developing within your interactions with the unseen. You recognize when interference approaches, not because you are paranoid, but because your inner compass has been tuned to detect shifts in energy. These signals are subtler: hesitation in thought, a sudden heaviness in a room, an inexplicable doubt planted in your mind. You respond differently now, calmly, decisively, intentionally. Reaction without panic neutralizes the attack. Demons seek chaos. Stillness removes the battlefield. The boundaries around you have become sacred, unbreachable and self-sustaining. Access is no longer granted indiscriminately. Protection now aligns with alignment. Anyone or anything that cannot harmonize with your energy is naturally repelled or removed. That is why certain people drifted away, or why situations that once seemed promising dissolved without explanation. It was not punishment, it was preservation. Your flame cannot be compromised. Those who cannot stand in the frequency of your alignment simply cannot persist in proximity without creating disharmony. And heaven removes what would disrupt flow before you ever notice imbalance. This is also why your inner voice is now paramount. Thoughts, intuition, and insight carry weight that surpasses conventional logic. Your awareness recognizes opportunities and threats with preciseness, guiding action before circumstances demand reaction. Divine flame illuminates paths previously obscured, exposing illusions and revealing truth in ways that cannot be ignored. Demons fear this illumination because exposure is their undoing. Where flame shines, deception cannot exist. Where your presence stabilizes, manipulation dissolves. You may feel that this stage demands restraint, but it is not limitation. It is refinement. Action must now reflect alignment. Speaking, moving, engaging each choice has far greater impact than previously imagined. Missteps carry consequences that ripple wider than before. That is why stillness, observation, and measured response dominate your current experience. Demons attempt to provoke impulsive reactions, but your discipline nullifies their strategies. Control now resides within, not imposed externally. Flame governs itself, and in doing so, it dictates the terms of engagement with every force that approaches. Your presence now catalyzes change, even without direct effort. People respond differently. Situations shift organically. Opportunities materialize with timing that feels almost supernatural. Your flame does not simply protect you, it shapes reality around you, subtly redirecting currents of energy, guiding events toward outcomes aligned with divine purpose. This is the hidden power of recognition at this stage. When light stabilizes, it no longer only defends, it creates. That is why demons recognize your divine flame instantly. They feel inevitability. They understand that force is no longer required, because alignment achieves naturally what aggression cannot. The stage you are in now is not about fighting or proving. It is about being and allowing being to orchestrate life. The flame you carry is sovereign. The energy you radiate is authority. Your calm is strategic. Your stillness is protective. Your presence is influential. And when you finally embrace this truth, resistance fades, manipulation fails, interference halts, and your path becomes a corridor of alignment where only what belongs can follow. Chosen one, this final stage is not loud, dramatic, or explosive the way the mind once imagined power would look. It is quieter than expectation, steadier than emotion, and far more irreversible than conflict. This is the moment when your divine flame is no longer reacting to the world, but the world is reacting to it. You are no longer being tested to see if you will break. You are being observed to see how you govern what you have been given. Demons recognize this phase instantly because it signals permanence. Fire that has survived this long is no longer temporary. It is established at this level. Opposition becomes subtle not because it is weak, but because it knows overt force will fail. You may notice fewer obvious battles now, fewer dramatic confrontations, fewer visible enemies. Instead, what appears are moments of temptation to dim yourself, to over-explain, to shrink for comfort, to soften your boundaries, to avoid discomfort. These are not attacks meant to destroy you. They are attempts to negotiate your flame downward. Darkness knows it cannot extinguish you, so it tries to bargain with your restraint. But your spirit recognizes this immediately. What once felt like humility now feels like compromise. And you refuse it without anger, without guilt, without explanation. You carry yourself differently now. Not rigid, not guarded, but anchored. Your reactions slow, not because you are unsure, but because you see farther ahead. You no longer rush to prove your goodness, your truth, your intentions. The flame inside you has matured past defense. Defense belongs to uncertainty. Authority belongs to knowing. And knowing is what you walk in now. When you enter a space, your energy speaks before your words ever do. Some feel comfort, others feel exposed. Both reactions are honest. Both are reflections of the flame doing exactly what it was designed to do.